What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the second channel. We'll go over some comments from last week's video. I guess it was our podcast on Tuesday, last Tuesday, on the Paul Reed Smith stuff. Because, of course, tone would. So people are going to be very religiously weird about that. So we're just going to go through this stuff and chat about it a little bit. It's unpredictable to say this wood makes this sound because too many other variables are at play. Yeah, I mean that's really it. You're in such of a narrow margin of measurement that any other thing can throw it off. That's why, to me, zooming in on any of this stuff that far is kind of pointless. You have to really look at it as more of a package thing, right? Gotta admit, I scrolled past that video several times because of the thumbnail. I saw the knocking on the wood and I ignored it. I probably watched thousands of hours of how it's made. Didn't matter what it was always super interested in everything. Yeah, me too. So this is interesting because this is interesting because I did the same thing. I scrolled past that Paul Reed Smith video about wood because I thought he was just going to be going through his normal stuff that he talks about, but it was actually really super informative. Let's see. Tonewood, not Tonewood. Believe what you want, but the truth is, at the top of PRS is a guy who is excited about guitars as we are. How many other guitar company CEOs think even give a crap about guitars? Paul spends every day of his life trying to make better guitars, period. Yeah, I agree. Some people said GNL. I agree. I'm kind of in the same boat on that deal. And then, of course, there's a bunch of people. This went a long time. A bunch of people talking about and being ugly to each other about how Paul Reed Smith is, they don't like him or whatever. And, to be honest with you, he is. It's cool to see him because you're right. There are not any other CEOs of large companies like that who are making content, who are out there actually doing it. And I think that's really cool. I wouldn't say that he's the only one that's passionate about the product, but he's the most interactive with everybody. And I dig that. I don't always agree with everything he says, but I dig it. And I like that. Let's see. Why do you always make fun of people who like to feel their guitars vibrating? Why is that stupid? Oh, it's totally resonant, bro. Yeah, it is. And I can actually feel it vibrating in my hands. I must be stupid. That heavy, dense, soggy feeling guitar is the one I should look for, right? The way it feels makes no difference whatsoever. Yeah, have fun with that friggin' wet cardboard boat anchor. I'm sure the electric tone is awesome. So, Stephen Pipes, yeah, I do make fun of it. And the reason I make fun of it is because people misuse the term. It's not resonance. What you're getting is sympathetic vibrations from the strings. And what that is that's energy being lost into the guitar, which feels really good. It does. It's great. Nobody likes to feel a dead guitar. But the contribution to that is a give and a take, because if you have the entire on an electric guitar, if you have the entire guitar vibrating, that's lost energy from the strings. So it feels great, but it's the opposite of the goal of like everybody wants to sustain, which that's the opposite. So the physics of that are it's lost energy. It does feel awesome, and I agree. I don't want to play a dead feeling guitar either. So that's the thing. And I think it's really important that people understand that resonance is when you have a frequency, you introduce a frequency to an object, and then that creates a vibration in another object at that same resonant frequency. That's resonance. Which this is not that. Okay. This is sympathetic vibration from lost energy. It's two different scientific terms. It's two different applications of vibration. Resonance, in the technical term, doesn't actually happen in a guitar, because the resonant frequency of wood, any wood, doesn't matter what it is too low for you to hear. So, for example, if you were to do that whole thing where you sing a very high note as an opera singer and shatter a glass, that's because the resonant frequency of glass is high enough that a human can make that sound, match that sound, and then cause that glass to break. The resonant frequency of wood is much, much lower, and it's actually not audible. That's why all of this stuff is stupid. So what happens is people conflate vibration that they feel with resonance, and then they conflate that feeling with tone, which I get because you want that experience of feeling the vibration of the guitar. It comes over from acoustic instruments. So it's understandable that people, get it all mixed up, but that's really why. Tone wood is complete BS. Acoustic, absolutely, but electric, okay, whatever. I get people are going to argue about it. Definitely a lot of variance within woods of the same species, making repeatability for tone hard. Definitely true. I've anecdotally observed some trends, but certainly not enough of a sample size to have a high degree of confidence. On the other hand, I can't deny different guitars that are the same except the wood, same pickups, are dramatically different. Yeah, agreed. And he says, I agree. It's a pretty senseless as a manufacturer to chase the marginal difference in tone at scale. The repeatability is too low. That's an excellent point. When you're making thousands of guitars, it is pointless to chase that. Yeah, excellent point. I would say that almost none of us are ever going to be heard by a huge audience, so what your guitar is made of and how well it is constructed are of the most importance. Most of us enjoy our guitars as a personal experience. I agree. That means that looks, feel, inspiration, and connection to the instrument are going to be the most important parts of our experience with a guitar. I wish more people would focus on that. Therefore, for most of us, beautiful woods and finishes are a large part of the experience. I don't care how it sounds in an arena if I never plan on leaving my music room. Stop crapping on beautiful guitars. Stop crapping on tone wood. To a guy in his bedroom or a music room, a beautiful flame top is very important, and that's okay. No, agreed. Absolutely agreed. Just don't call it tone wood. It's not. It's wood. It's what the guitar is made of. It is the building material. Make it out of whatever you want. Make it beautiful. Make it cool. And enjoy it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I agree. There's no point in arguing about it. I would argue that almost none of that was a repeat of the same question. My parents live in Spain. Their neighbor is a high-end luthier, and his garage is full of logs he bought 30 years ago. He has DNA samples to prove that they're the same pre-CITES logs, so he can use them in his guitars. Yeah, no, that's cool. People really dig their wood. Hey, Dylan, great video. What model frames are you wearing? I don't even know. Huckster's Plain and Simple. PRS, we get first choice of woods, so our guitars are the best. Jeff Kiesel, we get first choice of woods, and our guitars are the best. Someone is lying. No, not necessarily, actually. So there are different wood suppliers. I don't know if everybody knows that, but wood comes from all over the world. It comes from many different wood suppliers. And depending on the distribution, where you get your wood from, you could have the first choice of whatever. PRS does have a very vertical source. Like they've got some pull with that. Jeff Kiesel, I would say it's probably more of a marketing hype deal. However, it can be true because They don't all buy from the same place, and they're not all buying the same wood either. They're not all buying the same. They're not all looking for the same thing, right? What Jeff Kiesel uses in his guitars versus what PRS uses in their guitars, they might be looking for this different things. So you can go out of the same pile and say, I want first choice. I'm taking all of these. I want first choice, and I'm taking all of these. But you're both first choicing stuff that's not even the same. So it doesn't. There's no argument there. So it doesn't really matter. I'll tell you the truth. I don't care what my guitar is made of as long as it's stable and built to last. My PRSs are probably among the most stable in my collection, not to mention immaculate fretwork. True. So however Paul wants to spin it is fine by me. I'll probably own a few more PRSs before I die because of the functionality and quality of the instruments. I agree. A guitar should never be fabricated in 45% humidity. I mean, obviously, that's wrong. Because otherwise you wouldn't have the most stable guitars ever. Yeah, I mean, it's okay, whatever. You're just wrong about it. If you feel differently and you do it differently, if you're a guitar builder and you do it differently, that's fine. Whatever method works for you. But to say that you can't do that obviously is false. So, whatever. Choosing quality pieces of wood for a build obviously is very important, as opposed to randomly picking the next slab off the shelf. But everyone's processing their wood through torrefiers. Not true. Nobody uses wet wood. Also not true. A species is classified as tone wood after being given a certain shape, even if it produces musical tone when it's vibrating. Not true. No actual tone woods are being used in building solid body or semi-hollow guitars. Not even most jazz boxes. Beautiful pieces of wood, flame, burl, AAA, 10 top, do not contribute positively to the mechanical behavior of the instrument, thus to the sustain, thus to the tone of the instrument. That's simple physics. I'm not going to give you that, actually. Plain pieces are actually a lot better. PRS is selling nice wood to people who don't understand these things. I don't know their production processes so as to decide if their products are grossly overpriced or modestly overpriced. All I know is they offer the worst value for money proposition in the market. Even the SE line's pricing is obviously problematic to the customer if you know a thing or two about costing and business profit margins. Obviously you don't. This whole, to be honest with you, this whole comment is a bunch of garbage. So first of all, we'll parse through this. So first of all, not everybody is going through torrefiers. You don't understand what torrefying is, and not everybody's doing that. There's controlled drying, there is humidity control, all that kind of stuff, and there is torrefication, but a lot of times, not everybody's doing it, and it's not something that's necessary. It's kind of an extra for certain circumstances. So not everyone is doing it. So that's false. A species is classified as a tone wood after being only if it produces a musical tone and it's vibrating. Tone wood's a marketing term. It's just a marketing term. There's no real science to it at all, really. No actual tone woods are being used in building solid body or semi-hollow guitars, which is also not true because you're going to be using you use mahogany in an acoustic guitar, you use mahogany in an electric guitar. Does it apply the same? No, but it's the same. Could be the same wood. Could be. That sort of thing. Beautiful pieces of wood, flame, burl, do not contribute positively to the mechanical behavior of the instrument. That's also not true. If you get into real high-end acoustic guitars, when you start to get into bear claw stuff, you start to get into figuring. So the thing with figuring is interesting is a lot of the figuring that happens with wood has to do with how the tree grows, obviously, has to do with the weight of the tree, has to do with water circulation, growth stages during the tree's life, all that kind of stuff. And that's where a lot of that figuring comes from. Now, structurally, very heavily figured wood, because the grains are not straight, is going to be structurally different, like to be used in a neck, for example, than something with very straight, very uniform grain. As you can imagine, that's going to be stronger, it's going to be stiffer, etc. I have run into problems with guitars that have had heavily figured woods in the neck that then were less stable. So there is that. But when it comes to tonally on an acoustic instrument, especially, you can really do a lot with that. If you look at guitar companies like McPherson, for example, who use different species and different figurings of wood to do different things, it's pretty neat actually, because the stiffness of the top changes based on the grain structure. So it's pretty neat. PRS is selling nice wood to people who don't understand these things. I disagree with that too. To call consumers stupid in 2025 is not a good move. People are going to get educated on what they want to get educated about. And if they want fancy wood, they're going to learn about it and they're going to buy it and they're going to enjoy it. Now, there is a lot of misinformation out there. We've obviously seen a bunch of it in the comments, but it's just part of life. Like, there's no reason to get kind of worked up about it. Let's see here. The pickups on Stratocasters are mounted on toned plastic. And the reason all these little things make such a difference, capacitance, resistance, resonant peak, is because the guitar has such a low output before any pedal or preamp that any of these differences are so greatly amplified down the chain. They're very manipulatable. So you change any resistance, any inductance, or any capacitance in the circuit because you're right, because you have such a low voltage, you have no current really. Every little thing can be pushed around and moved around, and things can change. The resonant peak of the circuit can change very easily, because there's just not much there. You can make a dining room table out of plywood, but nobody will eat dinner off it. Depends. I mean, my dad makes some really neat stuff out of reclaimed stuff. That's pretty cool. Just-in-time inventory? Yep. Maybe I'll watch that video now. I'm a manufacturing engineer, and everything you're saying is correct. Oh, really? Because the other guy said I was wrong about everything. That's interesting. The better control the environment and material, the less variation will appear in your product. Yes. The less variation you have, the higher quality. And you're right about having inventory taking up space. In a perfect situation, you would have no inventory sitting around. But from what you've described, it sounds like Paul doesn't consider that step inventory storage. He probably does somehow. I just don't know. If the goal is to get the wood into a consistent state, and then he probably considers it a process all his own. Maybe so. You're right. That makes sense. An electric guitar has more in common with a microphone than a drum. Yeah, except the microphone is different because it's a motor that works in a different way. But I see your point. It uses, the thing about a microphone is it still uses the motion of air, where a guitar does not use air. An electric guitar does not use air. Let's see. Pity about three-pieced unmatched bodies with lots of filler that the PRS Silver Sky cores have. Paul from the Studio Rats found this out by refinishing his guitar recently. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, really. Whatever, just build great guitars, and actually the people want to buy the prices people that can afford. Do that, and all the details so important to building guitars become irrelevant for most players. Some folks build guitars, others play music. You do your job, and we'll do ours. Besides, unless it's microphonic, magnetic pickups on a solid body string sense string vibration and motion, not body wood. So is wood important? Sure, for a long-term structural stability, but not if you're talking tone. So here's again where people think they know everything about manufacturing and stuff, and the details important to building guitars are important. One of the things I think people try to take away from those of us who make things is that we care about the art of the making the thing. So whether you think it's relevant or not, to be honest with you, I don't care. If there's a detail about the thing that I'm manufacturing that I'm passionate about, the fact that it matters to you or not, it doesn't matter to me, because I'm making this thing and I want to be proud of it. So if Paul Reed Smith says, I want to be proud of this thing and this is why we do it, and you don't care, it doesn't really matter, because as a creator of the thing, this was my intention. This is a functional piece of art. Therefore, this is why I'm doing it. Whether you find value in that or not is almost not relevant to me. Now, whether you buy the product or not is also not relevant to me, because it's important to me to, as an artist, to find people that want to consume my product in the state that I intended. If I was to change it based on your view of what's important, then I would lose identity as a brand. I would lose identity as a person, and I hate my life. So I don't do that. And he doesn't either. Let's see. Somebody asked about my pocket knife. Don't forget to tell people about your fence post guitar from years ago. Yeah. There's a lot to learn about Paul, as long as you can get past his annoying personality. He's very, 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 very intelligent. Very intelligent. A lot of folks talking about Tonewood here. We're just probably going to leave those ones alone. You know, a lot of this stuff. People talking about picks. Spot on. All the historic guitars were built for cost efficiency. Just so happens that they got some right. On the Fender side, for sure. I think Gibson, you know, with the Les Paul and stuff, again, that was a creation of a person who was trying to bring an idea into life. But there's a lot of innovation that was happening back then too, because nobody had ever done it before, you know. So, you know, of course, everything we do now is an evolution of those original innovations. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I love looking at all the manufacturing stuff. It's really important to me. So there you go. You guys, super fun. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you in the next one. Make sure you go over to Dylan Talks Tone and subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you in the next